Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Lions Den with another news and commentary, doing another update with the coronavirus. Now, this is a latest video that I just saw. Matter of fact, this is a live stream that I just saw about the same gentleman that I talked about before. But this video, it'll tell you now, everybody's now know about the coronavirus. The question is it too little, too late? So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And again, this is going to probably be about an hour long, but you're going to probably want to see more information about this coronavirus. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and I'm going to continue the rest of my commentary.
The United States declares an emergency around the coronavirus, but infectious disease specialists say the cat's already out of the bag and it's too late. Good morning, this is Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity. It is February 1st, about 9:40 in the morning. This is your coronavirus update. Let's go straight to the numbers. The first thing we've got is case count this morning of 12,024. Deaths reported at 259. We have strong reason to suspect that both of these numbers are actually very low, much too low. But let's take them as given. Here's where it stands against the model that I've been putting forward, which was a very simple model. Said, hey, what if we had a 40% rate of increases for the cases? That's something that we've actually seen, and the serious complication rate, trying to get a hand around that. So the model tracked pretty well here on the first day out of the gate, because this was day 0. Those are actual numbers that were reported. So then I calculated 6684. It was actually 7811, so I was a little worried that model was low. Model was tracking right on board here. On the second day, third day, the model, that would have been yesterday, the model would have predicted 13,100. Instead, it was 11,791. Again, reported. I don't know if any of this stuff is right. Honestly, we may just be tracking the rate at which China is able to produce and test samples. Test kits, produce samples, and run test kits. Why is it important, though? Because this looks like if we do have this break of the actual exponential trend, let's imagine these numbers are real. This is actually really good news, and here's why. If we look at Ebola virus epidemic in West Africa, very different virus, very different sort of containment strategies, but this gets the idea across. Again, we're on a log scale here, and over time, only appropriate way to display this sort of information. You have the outbreak. Here we have cases in red and deaths in black. Because these are flat lines on a log chart, this is increasing exponentially, or geometrically in this case. When you first see that break, that means your containment is starting to work. As we covered yesterday, you really want the containment to take hold. So if these numbers here represent an actual break in the exponential line, it means that China's efforts at containment are working. That would be very good news. Okay, moving on. The U.S. finally declares this emergency, and we saw also that we now have a 7th U.S. case of coronavirus confirmed in Santa Clara County, and we don't have a lot of data around this. They're being really quite cagey with some of this data, but at any rate, we now have 3 cases confirmed in California, 2 in Illinois, 1 in Arizona, another in Washington State, right? So I guess a little bit West Coast sort of biased on that right now. And the U.S. is going to ban all foreign nationals who have traveled to China in the last 14 days. And the ban, that's going to begin at 5 o'clock tomorrow and Sunday. So if you're in China or you've been there and you want to get to the U.S., hurry up. I guess that's the message here. This isn't how these things really, the quarantines don't work unless they're unannounced, honestly. And so this statement I want to take exception to. The risk of infection for Americans remains low. Okay? That's actually true. The risk of catching this inside the United States now remains low, but it's not going to remain low because of the exceptional R0 of this virus and its ability to spread. Very infectious, and the fact that it has already spread. In fact, let's turn now to an infectious disease specialist. This is from February 1st, that would be today, so this came out just a couple hours ago. Judy Stone is an infectious disease specialist. And so down in the article, she said here, the decision to impose a severe travel ban and mandatory quarantines in response to the novel coronavirus flies in the face of public health recommendations, including those from some Johns Hopkins event. I'm going to take really strong exception to that, and I'll tell you why. Just a second. Instead, it appears to be a response to xenophobia. Okay, so it's racist again. I really take exception to this. To insert, like, you might as well say it's political. It's not. This is public health. This has to do with how diseases spread, and there may well be secondary things that happen, things that appear like xenophobia and like economic impacts. But really, the prime thing we should be focused on here is public health. Okay, here's her reasoning. What we've learned this week argues against these restrictions. The biggest reason is that we now know fairly certainly from the cases in Germany that the virus can be spread before someone has symptoms. We also learned from that it can be spread while someone has symptoms, and even if one report I've read is correct, after the fever has broke, they may still be infectious. This thing is just plain infectious, okay? So she goes on, in plain terms, the cat's out of the bag. Okay, so yeah, millions of people have been traveling internationally without any symptoms, or certainly the cat is out of the bag, but this represents just throwing your hands up in the air and going, well, what are you going to do? The cat's already out of the bag. What are you going to do? Well, again, if containment can help slow the spread of the disease, here's why I think this is really poor advice right now. And I'm going to, listen, I'm not an infectious disease specialist, and who am I to go up against Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security, but oh my goodness. This is what you get when in the early stage or in a contained disease, you get 5 doctors all to yourself. You get in a nice room with machines that go bing, and you got respirators. When it exceeds the ability of the system to handle it, that's, the cat's out of the bag, and we've just thrown up our hands and said, what are you going to do? And millions of people get infected. Then you get this. Of course, it's not funny at all, but this is what happens is you get people in hallways, and your support is limited to an IV bag hanging right there in public. So would you rather be facing this or this? To me, that's the difference between aggressive containment measures and throwing your hands up and saying, what are you going to do? We do have more increasing economic impacts showing up. Apple is forced to close all stores and offices in China till February 9th. All stores and offices is being reported. So that's all 42 stores. That's going to have a big impact there, of course. And we're seeing headlines like this pop up all over the place. Here's one. Chinese tourist desert Thai resort as coronavirus spreads. So these are going to have really outsized economic impacts. We are getting lots of data that's showing and documenting this idea that the coronavirus does spread by people showing no symptoms. And this is all really important because, again, if you want to contain this, I want to point the difference out between being reactive versus proactive. Reactive is what the U.S. infectious disease specialists seem to be saying, which is throw your hands up. Listen, when we find people with cases, we'll react to that. We will manage that. We'll try and contain them and find everybody they talked to and went around. Proactive is saying we're going to prevent people from moving because we don't know who actually might have this disease. And that's what you do. And remember, with an R0 that's at 4, these things get out of control really quickly. So containment, just so you don't swamp your medical system, seems to be important. I'm seeing a lot of stuff like this. Stephen McDonald says, but significantly, the mortality rate with this coronavirus is lower than SARS. So easier to catch, but not as deadly. With SARS, more than 700 dead from 8,000 infections. This is a BBC China correspondent. So a lot of people following this person. Sounds good, right? Remember, we sort of debunked this with this chart earlier, which says you can't just divide current deaths into confirmed cases by confirmed cases and get a death count. This is all said and done. This is still ongoing. So here's a quick little model I built to just help explain that. We have here a death rate. It's at 6.5%, which came out of that study. Is it right or wrong? I don't know, but we're just going to use it for demonstration. But it did come out of that study from China. It has a lag in days, 5, I'm saying here. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I'm saying you don't get this illness and die on day 1. So let's imagine we had 1,000 cases on day 1 of this study here. No deaths are reported because you need 5 days to pass. So the reported case fatality rate would be 0%. We go along, day 2, same thing, no deaths. Day 3, no deaths. Day 4, no deaths. Day 5, it takes 5 full days for this to express, so no deaths. But on day 6, we're seeing 65 deaths. You divide 65 by 5,378, and you got a 1.2% death rate. But the actual CFR has not changed. It's actually 6.5% the whole time. All right. So that's why you can't just do what Stephen McDonald did here. You can't do that. That doesn't make sense. All right. We're seeing a lot of this too, which is this is showing up, of course, on my Twitter timeline. Nothing like promoting the MSM mass hysteria over another supposed pandemic that will largely be forgotten about in a week. Hey, look, people apparently panicked about these things. I'll be honest, I didn't send out a single alert about any of these to my listeners because none of them were of any concern to me because we didn't have numbers like this. Remember? This is nothing like the flu, so you can't really compare this to H1N1. It's totally different, particularly in H1N1 to nCoV. And oh, by the way, this was what I put 2.5 to 3.5. Is it now 4.08? That's what we talked about yesterday. All right. Here's the conclusion for today. The cases may have broken that exponential trend. That would be very good news. The data from China is completely missing or untrustworthy at this point. We have to look at it with a lot of suspicion. The U.S. finally declares an emergency and later today will block all inbound traffic from China and people who have traveled to China. But I got to ask the question, what about people who go somewhere else first, then to the U.S.? You're going to hope you're going to have to catch that on the passport during their time into the traveling in. The cat's out of the bag is what we're being told now, and that there's no way of stopping this anymore. But I'm telling you, we can still slow it down, and that would be great. And many people are still trying very hard to resist accepting that any of this is true. They continue to spread wrong, false, misleading comparisons in their attempt, I believe, to calm their own fears, not to be actually publicly helpful. All right, that's your update for today. Thank you for listening.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now you see the update of the coronavirus. Um, One thing we need to prepare for is that we have to have more reliable information on what this virus is and what can we do as of right now, because as you can tell that the California, Arizona, Illinois, and Washington state are already have cases of the coronavirus, and that's here in the United States. But China, they're right now, to me, in China, they're in serious trouble. I mean, the entire earlier video that I've done, I already explained to you all the provinces in China that's is higher than expected, and more deaths is also expected. So you know we have to take a grain of salt here, that this disease we can't ignore, we can't downplay, we can't do anything, because people around the world who are traveling overseas need to be aware that this disease is for real. But like I said, like I said, we only people that's not effective, and all the I think I did all the maps of where the coronavirus is located. We already talked about Canada, the United States, and Great Britain, France, Germany, China, the other Asian countries. You notice the two continents that not haven't been affected was Africa and South America. And some, I don't know if you guys are aware of that or not, but yeah, I don't hear no cases in Africa or in South America, because people talking about, well, there's a case in Brazil. No, it's not. Even according to the BNO News, they even said about either yesterday or day before yesterday that Brazil don't haven't found any cases of the coronavirus in that country. So that's just hearsay. But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that we got to be prepared. We got to do what we got to do. When it comes to Chinese, I mean, if it's come meats, don't eat meats that come from China. Wash your hands daily. Every time you go out, every time you do something that has germs, always wash your hands, and be prepared. Be prepared for this disease, regardless of what happens. So that's all I have to tell you. So I'm gonna keep you posted. I'm gonna give you more information of the coronavirus as soon as we can. But I like to give a shout out to the Peak Prosperity to let us know the real deal of what's going on. And I'm going to continue to talk about the coronavirus because I think people need to hear it, because the mainstream media, again, like I said, they give you it's in pieces of the story, and that's not the case. So I'm just letting you know what's going on, and I will talk to you later. And again, like I said, leave us a comment, like, click, subscribe, and remember to click the notification bell for all the news and commentary. With that being said, it's Lions Den signing off. Deuces.